The Mariners are shaking things up in their broadcast booth in 2025. Jordan and I are going to talk about who's in and who's out in the booth before we talk about, well, spring training. Now that the Super Bowl is over, it's baseball season, baby. Joe and I are going to talk about what to look out for in spring training and just kind of some important and fun things that are going to be happening down in Peoria. And then we're going to talk about the broadcast down in Peoria and how many games the Mariners are going to be broadcasting, as well as the StatCast broadcast list, which is very, very exciting. And Joe and I are going to break that down as well. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 164 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav Network, the anonymous episode of the podcast. We saw that you put anonymous for on your donation up to the GoFundMe, but we know who you are, so we appreciate you, but it's going to be anonymous for everyone else. I'm here with Joe. Joe, we have reached about, I think, 26% on our fundraiser so far of the $5,000 we're trying to raise to go down to spring training. How are we feeling about that?
We know who you are. We won't find you, and we won't. No, feeling good. Like, honestly, like, incredible support. Like, I could not ask for a better community. And I kind of highlighted that you also did in our interview with Jake on Raise the Trident. Just like a fun conversation.
Go check that out.
And make sure you guys go check that out if you haven't already. A very wholesome, from the heart conversation. I almost cried. Full disclosure. So
it was a deep one.
If you want to see me get emotional, emotional asterisk in the title, please do so. But something that I'm emotionally happy about, not necessarily distraught about, Colton, is some changes to the broadcast booth. And maybe it is a little distraught. But I think there's some changes that needed to happen. And obviously we knew Dave Sims was on his way out because, like, the Yankees job, like, that's, a dream job for Dave Sims. And so with that kind of like looming overhead, we knew other changes needed to be made in the broadcast. But there's one that I think is probably, I think, weighing on a lot of Mariners fans just in general, because he didn't really he chose to not make a comment about his departure from the broadcast booth. But from Adam Jude on February 7th, some changes to the broadcast booth for the Mariners this upcoming season. Out, Dave Sims and Mike Blowers. In, Angie Mentink, Jay Buhner, Dave Valley, Ryan Rowland-Smith, with Aaron Goldsmith assuming TV play-by-play full-time. There was, not so long ago, Aaron Goldsmith was rumored to be potentially a lead candidate for the Cardinals' main play-by-play guy. And had Goldsmith accepted that job, the landscape of Mariners play-by-play would look a lot different than it does as we sit here on February 9th. But color commentators going with Aaron Goldsmith. Obviously, like I said, Angie, Jay, Dave Valley, and Ryan Rowland-Smith. I think all four very suitable, very well-spoken, and entertaining. I almost said casters like this is Rocket League. Shout out NRG, won the second NA Regional. W. Had to bring it up. I almost said casters. That's hilarious. Broadcasters, I think all well suited. We've seen Angie in the booth plenty last year. Ryan Rowland-Smith obviously has been in there a handful of times. I think Buhner's been in there a couple of times, once last year. I'm not super sure about Dave Valley, but regardless, I think Aaron Goldsmith, obviously, that's like the most exciting thing. A lot of people love Goldie. Big upgrade as well for Gary Hill being like the main radio guy with Rick Riz, which is very exciting for him. But Colton, Dave Sims, Mike Blowers, a pretty, whether you liked them or not, impactful duo in the Mariners broadcasting booth, both out for 2025. How are we feeling about the booth going into this season?
It really is bittersweet because, like, I love Dave Sims, great dude. Again, if you guys watched the episode that we did with Jake, the interview we did with Jake, I talked about how I interviewed Dave Sims in high school and like how just gracious he was with his time. And then Mike Blowers, we know, so like I don't want to speculate, right? I don't want to speculate as to why he isn't coming back, right? It could be scheduling conflict. It could be he's just retiring, he's done. It could be like health stuff, whatever. I don't want to speculate.
Mm-hmm.
I know over the past few years he's missed a lot of time, right? So it's like, yeah, it just kind of seemed like the writing was on the wall there that he wasn't going to be a huge part of the booth going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Super, super thrilled for Angie to be like a bigger part of it. I know that like Angie's not everyone's cup of tea, but I think Angie does a great job. She brings a whole different perspective to the booth. Obviously, she was a professional softball player. Like Angie Mentink is incredible. Like you mentioned, Gary Hill, I'm super excited to have him be a bigger part of the radio broadcast. I think that he does a great job as well. And on the Mike Blowers front, my favorite duo was Aaron and Mike.
Yeah.
Like those two together, they just kind of always ragged on each other, and it was a lot of fun. So I am very much bummed that that isn't going to happen this year. I wonder if there's a possibility, and again, don't want to speculate, but there's a possibility that like maybe Mike comes back once in a while, right?
Sure.
Like over the past few years, we've had Jay Buhner come in every now and again, but not often.
Yeah, it's like a guest. Like, I mean, Mike Cameron's come into the booth a handful of times.
Griffey's coming.
Yeah, like something like that with Mike, I don't think would be unwelcomed, and I also wouldn't be surprised by it by any means, kind of like what you're saying.
Right. And I think that is like, that'd be great, because Aaron taking over full like play-by-play on, because in 2024 it was a lot of rotating doors. Rick was the guy every single night on the radio, but like Aaron would be the main play-by-play guy on TV every once in a while. Then Dave Sims would come back and do it. Like it just was, it seemed that the Mariners were like, yeah, Aaron is incredible, and like that was probably part of the deal to get him to stay with Seattle, to not leave to go to St. Louis. Now that he's going to be there every single day, super excited for it. I think him and Angie are great together. I personally, this is just me, I don't care for Jay Buhner in the broadcast booth personally. Yeah. Listen, and again, if he's your cup of tea, that's great. Like, I'm not here to like, butt heads with anyone about like broadcast booth people, because everyone has their own flavors, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that Jay Buhner, but like Ryan Roll Smith, I think is great. Dave Valley, I think's always been fun. Again, he's kind of like you said, like Mike Cameron, a guy who hasn't been there that much, but he's been more a part of the broadcast, more so I'd say like pregame and postgame over the past few years than actually during the game. Super excited to have him be a part of it. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, it's bittersweet. Great for Dave, obviously. Awesome for him to be able to go get a dream job with the Yankees. Like, nobody can blame him for leaving for that job. Bummed about Mike Blowers, and super excited for Angie to take on a bigger role. I think overall it's going to be a fun year in the broadcast booth. Probably some hiccups along the way, but like overall pretty excited about it.
And you say like some hiccups, like not to say that there weren't hiccups with like even like Dave and Mike, or like Mike and Aaron. Like there were times where like Dave would say something and Mike wouldn't respond, and it felt like this like kind of like not estranged, that's not the right word, but like this couple that was just like not talking, and it was just funny. It was funny to those that were like kind of keen to the idea. But Aaron and Mike were a great combo, like in my opinion. But I think what's exciting, and whether or not you like consistency in the booth, and maybe this is a problem for those people that do like consistency in the booth, we're going to get a lot of different kind of like dynamics. And you yourself, you don't like Jay Buhner. I hope he grows on you.
Whoa.
Sorry, you don't like Jay Buhner. You don't like Jay Buhner in the booth necessarily.
I don't think
of the four, he is your least preferential. How about that?
Okay, fair. I didn't say I didn't like him. Just so we're clear.
Sorry.
Okay.
You don't want you don't want the bone coming after you, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
all
exactly. Right. Listen, like NWS
I got you,
rocks, man.
I got you right where I want you. It's 5 minutes of playtime. That's a Spider-Man 1 reference, if anyone's
Tobey Maguire Spider-Man?
Yeah, when he's going to do the wrestling thing for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
I got you. 5 minutes of playtime. Anyways, Jay Buhner. I think he provides like a bit of chaos in the booth. Mariner Muse has he posted like a screenshot of like the moment that Jay was in the booth last year, and just like how he like called out like Rob Manfred and he wanted to fight him, kind of a thing. Like, I think in small doses, Buhner could end up being one of the more fun ones in the booth. But like if you're looking for more of like, I don't want to say like professional, because like, again, not to rag on anyone and their style of commentary, because like they're there, we're not, like, duh. Like, of course they're given the job to do it. But like, I think Angie does a great job, like you mentioned. I think Ryan Roll Smith obviously had his own podcast for that MLB Network. Like, he had his own show. Like, yeah, he's been in or around like Mariners broadcasts for a minute. I think all of them will provide just like a nice new layer to the Mariners broadcast, kind of like ushering in like the new era. Because Dave specifically, he's been there for a long time. Not to say that Aaron hasn't been there for a time too, and same thing with Angie, just like in or around like, just Mariners stuff in general. But like it's a new era for sure. And I think that that's something we'll get a glimpse of it in spring training, like kind of like what's going on there, and whether that be on some of those webcasts that were brought up last year for the first time. or maybe of like just like the actual Root broadcast, but Kevin Martinez. Shout
Goat.
out Kevin, dude, the GOAT.
Dude,
One of
he's
the
so
best
good.
guys in the Mariners organization, like hands down. He was so Pint Size Analyze was
Shout out Brennan.
yeah, shout out Brennan. He was commenting on a post and kind of just like said like, "Hey yo, Kevin, my guy, what's the broadcast situation looking like for spring training?" And Kevin responded, took the time out on Twitter just to respond and said, "Brendan, we are looking to do at least 8 webcasts this year. More games on Root Sports as well. Still looking for final details coming soon. Thanks for the question." So one, just good dude, but also like 8 webcasts. There was what, 3 last year? Maybe
Was
4.
that all there was 3?
Yeah. I feel like
I know
was
there
like
were some like randomly scheduled
less
afterwards.
less than one hand in my opinion is all I remember. So less than 5. 1, 2. It's like the scene from Bruce Almighty where he's got 7 fingers. But like also more games on Root, which is very exciting. Like we'll get to see and hear just like the booth more active, I think, than previous years, and whether or not they get top prospects in there again. Like when Colt Emerson joined the booth last year with Aaron Goldsmith at one point, that was so fun. Like I hope that they do something similar again. But yeah, just like I hope that we get some sort of like rotating door of Goldsmith, Angie, Jay, Dave, Ryan, like all of them, right? Just to kind of see what's going on. But outside of the broadcast booth, Colton, what are you kind of keying in on for spring training as things to kind of like look out for?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff. And obviously, like for Joe and I, we're going to be down there. I'm going to be down there the whole month. Joe's going to be down there for a week. Like it's going to be a little bit different for like us because yeah, the broadcasts and stuff are great. We're not going to I don't think I'll watch a single one because I'll be there. Why would I?
Sure.
Right? But like when it comes to things to look forward to, the thing that I'm the most excited for is the spring breakout game on, I believe it's the 14th down in Goodyear versus the Reds, where a lot of the Mariners' top prospects will be there. It hasn't been announced yet, like what those rosters look like or anything like that. I don't know when it will be, but that was a game that I was supposed to go to in 2023 when I was down there. I'm sorry, 2024 when I was down there, but it rained out, which was a huge bummer. But it's just so fun to see a lot of the prospects, a lot of the guys like, you know, Colt Emerson, Las Montez, etc. Guys that are going to be a big part of the Mariners' future, being able to watch them in a game on the big league field and just being, you know, seeing what they can do. That's something I'm really excited for. I think that when it comes to the guys we're going to see in camp, we're going to see Cole Young in camp. We're going to see Ben Williamson in camp. Like these are guys that, while it's probably an outside chance that are going to make the big league roster, I think that being able to see them up close and personal, being able to see them get into live game action is going to be very important. And it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun to see some of these, like the kids up close. That the Mariners are in a very interesting spot where they don't necessarily have the luxury of bringing up some kids and seeing how they do. But at the same time, like if, you know, like at second base, for example, if Dylan Moore, Ryan Bliss, etc. don't work out, if Cole Young's hitting the cover off the ball in AAA, bring him up.
Give him a chance.
Like those are guys that we could legitimately see this coming season. Same with Ben Williamson. Let's say Polanco goes down or something at third base, and like Demo's struggling or whatever. However the roster works out in that regard, like the fact that we might be able to see a couple of these young guys come up, guys that while Williamson wasn't like a, you know, top of the draft, like first round crop sort of guy, still a highly touted prospect for the Mariners right now. The idea of seeing Cole Young in 2025 is so exciting to me. Like, I know that he's fallen down a little bit with Colt Emerson kind of taking over that number 1 spot. So like when we see Colt Emerson in maybe like late 2026, I'm going to be super jazzed for that.
Absolutely.
But being able to see Cole Young, who was like one of the first bats drafted after the Mariners went on their run of pitchers, I am so excited for that to see. Because again, we've seen how the Mariners development staff has gone about developing pitchers. They've done a great job. We haven't really seen it with hitters under this regime, under the regime of ever since the retooling began. We haven't seen it. And so, I mean, there's been glimpses, right, of certain guys. Like I think Tyler Locklear, Cal Raleigh, etc. are guys that kind of fit that mold. But like, this is going to be the top end of all of MLB's prospect rankings, not just the Mariners. coming up. So I'll be super excited to see how those guys perform as well.
Yeah, it's the next wave of prospects. You mentioned like the way that they've drafted a bunch of pitchers, a bunch of hitters. Likely they're turning back to the pitchers now, but like those wave of hitters that are they're on their way, and spring training is the best chance to see them, regardless of whether or not you see them during like the 2025 season. Like, sure, Cole Young's an exception where you'll probably see him this year. Williamson, probably see him this year potentially, but outside of that, like even some of the guys that are further away, you mentioned Colt Emerson. I mean, Las Montes is invited to spring training. Like, there's a bunch of guys that are really exciting. Michael Arroyo, and there's going to be like next level data, StatCast level data on these guys in spring training. Only 6 games, Colton, on the Mariners spring training schedule are not going to have StatCast available in the park. So that means outside of February 22nd against the Angels, February 24th against the Brewers, March 8th against the Cubs, March 10th against the Brewers, March 15th against the Giants, and March 17th against the Athletics, every single game will have StatCast data available for your favorite top Mariners prospects, your guys that you're watching to see if they are making an impact and pushing themselves to a 26-man roster invite, making the major league club come the end of spring training. Every single one of those games outside of those 6 will have that next level data to really kind of analyze and see what's going on with their profile. If they're hitting a max EV of 115, I bet Las Montes is hitting a 115, 115 mile an hour homer at some point during spring. And it's going to, as I said earlier, absolute cinema. Could you imagine? Bro, I'm going crazy. I'll start running the bases for him. I don't care.
You don't run.
Okay, that's rude. I don't know if the fatty was there. Like I don't run was fine, but the fatty felt unnecessary. No, it's so cool that like we're reaching this era of baseball. And sure, the advanced analytics ruined baseball. Sure, there's some things out there that maybe you could point to, like Jerry DePoto's comments like last week, where it's like advanced stats like WRC plus. That's not that advanced, Jerry. I understand that, and I am far and away not advanced when it comes to MLB statistics, and I understand WRC plus. So what does that say about you, my friend? There's a lot to be excited about all of the data that you can kind of pull from these games. And it's not just, I mean, outside the prospects, like what is Julio looking like at this point? Is he off to a slow start? Polo last year was hitting like 350 in spring, and then he put up his worst year of his career. So like, what does he look like in spring? Like, there's so many things to be excited. And shout out to @TimStats. He posted a great graphic. Please, I implore you to go check it out. See if you're going to any of those games that will have StatCast data available, because if you're at the game and then you see someone hit a ball really hard, be like, yo, that was really hard, you could probably go check it, and it'll be available to you like right then and there. So TimStats, he posted a great graphic of it. Spring training, dude, like I know the games don't matter. This makes the games matter so much more to me, just because like, sure, results, what they're doing at the plate, everyone just kind of going through the motions, trying to get their hacks in. Regardless, if someone gets a dad hack in, hits a ball 125 miles an hour, just breaks. We're breaking records. We're setting Giancarlo down. All right, we're taking him off the top dog kind of echelon of like top exit velo. Obviously, that's not like really possible, but like, I don't know, dude. It's just exciting. Spring training. It's such an exciting time just to see all the young players, what they're capable of, and how your everyday MLB regulars are also looking going into the regular season. Like, of course, like, there's guys that are already down there before pitchers and catchers have even reported that are position players already getting their work in, getting their reps in. Like, there's a picture of Laz and Randy posted together. Yeah. And Laz made Randy look like a man-child. Like,
what? I don't think that was in Peoria, though. That was like in like the DR or something. I don't know where
was it? I just thought it was in Peoria.
Not the DR. I don't know where it was, but I don't think it was Peoria. Anyway, sorry, continue.
But they were working out together. So like,
either way, yeah,
players are together already. Maybe it was Julio like posted an Instagram story that he was already in Arizona. Maybe that's what it was. Regardless, it's getting close to that time. And I know that we're like, you know, about a month and a half away of like actually needing to see what the regular season roster looks like. But Colton, two pretty prominent figures in the Mariners space One, should we call him a friend? I think we will.
I think we can call Ty a friend.
TDG Gonzalez, writing for Emerald City Spectrum. New writing job for him. Go check that out. Very exciting coverage for all Seattle sports in general, but obviously Ty covering the Mariners for them. It's very, very exciting. Posted his 26-man roster expectation and projection and kind of a breakdown of each position. The article will be linked down in the description down below. Disregard the very young picture of JP Crawford. He posted that they're still looking for picture licensing, so just ignore that. It's just like, a little fun thing. And then obviously Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times, duh, we know Divish. He also posted his 26-man roster projection coming out of the spring training, kind of like what he expects. So what we're going to go over some of the differences, some of the things that they talked about in those two articles, and kind of like what the 26-man roster plays out for those two guys that are obviously very involved in Mariner spaces, and what we kind of think about it, because, spring training games haven't been played, Colton, but there's some interesting choices, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Some very interesting choices made. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with Divish or you want to start with Ty?
Let's start with Divish's, because I feel like I can say a little bit more about Ty's.
Okay.
The rotation is pretty... Yeah, it's straightforward. It is some combination. Now, the way, I don't know if they have it listed this way just based on, I think Divish has it listed this way just based on where they were last year. So it goes Castillo, Kirby, Gilbert, Miller, Wu. Mm-hmm. That's not how Ty has it listed. We'll talk about here in a second. Ty, I think, listed it more in like a depth chart sort of way. But yeah, starting rotation is to be expected. Now, where things change a little bit is the bullpen. So for the bullpen, Ty mentions this a little bit in his article. The Mariners are probably going to carry, because 26-man roster, the Mariners are probably going to carry 13 pitchers. They like to do that. They like to carry an extra pitcher instead of an extra hitter. Mm-hmm. Now, 13 is the max that you can carry for pitchers. So 5 starters and then 8 relief pitchers. Ryan Divish has it set up as Andres Munoz, Gregory Santos, Colin Snyder, Edward Bazardo, Trent Thornton, Cody Bolton, Taylor Saucedo, and Gabe Spire. Now, the injured list is Matt Brash, Troy Taylor, and Jackson Kowar. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we know that Taylor and Brash will be a part of it moving forward when they become healthy. Kowar, maybe. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, he should be healthy by mid-season, I would think, right? Like,
I think him and Brash probably got, like, they were on a similar timeline,
around the same time.
But it seems like Kowar's taking a little bit longer. And obviously, prior to coming to Seattle, I mean, we never saw him in Seattle, but like with Kansas City, he was kind of a yikes. But if the Mariners feel like they've seen enough progress out of him, he most certainly can see innings in 2025. But I think what would be best for him is to kind of like ramp up that kind of stability and see if they can kind of get a more mid to leverage arm out of him later in the year and allow some of these other guys to take some of those innings earlier in the year. But I think what you're about to get to is the singular difference between their bullpen. 7 out of the 8 names are the same, but Colton, there's one that are different between the two.
Right. And that is on Divish's list. He has Cody Bolton listed. Whereas for Ty, he lists Hagen Danner as the guy taking that spot. Now, obviously, Hagen Danner, was he from the Blue Jays? Right?
Yeah.
Right. So he was signed as a free agent or claimed or whatever it was from the Blue Jays earlier this offseason. I think, so what Ty says here specifically, so I want to kind of mention that. Ty says, while Danner gets the nod on this list primarily due to the intriguing underlying numbers his slider presents, the last spot in Seattle's bullpen could go to any of the aforementioned names. Now, he talked about Carlos Vargas, Will Klein, Casey Lugamina.
Who was just said that right. Yeah, recently acquired from the Reds. And
right.
Blas Castano as well.
Blas Castano is another good one. Like Shintaro Fujinami, Drew Pomerantz, Neftali Feliz, guys that have been there, done that. Darius Valdez and Adonis Medina are other ones that the Mariners have signed.
I think one of those guys recently signed in the MPB. Kick Dirt Baseball posted like a quote tweet about I think it was Medina.
Oh, really?
Or might have been Valdez.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, actually. I think I did see that.
I need to double check which one it was. I think it was. Yeah. I'll go look really quick.
Yeah, you keep looking. Yeah, so that's the one difference that Ty and Divish have in their two bullpens, Hagen Danner or Cody Bolton. Obviously, we saw Bolton in 2024. I believe he took a ball off the knee in Toronto, I think it was. Kind of got injured from that. was, sent down the injured list, what have you. Hagen Danner's a guy who, like Ty mentions here, has very interesting underlying numbers on his slider, and we know how much the Mariners love to focus in on one really good pitch. And so, I think that if I had to pick between the two, we saw Bolton last year. It was like, ugh.
Yeah.
Hagen Danner is an unknown who has some really good underlying numbers, and if the Mariners can unlock something with him, I think I lean more towards Ty's list here in terms of the bullpen. Not to say that Divish's list is wrong, just to say that I think that Hagen Danner might have an edge over Cody Bolton. With that being said, I don't know if either guy has options. We didn't look that up beforehand.
I'll figure it out for you.
Yeah, like if either guy has options, the thing with the pile, if you will, is guys with options are immediately at a disadvantage. Like they're immediately at, like they can be sent down, they can be sent to AAA, what have you, and the Mariners can stash them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas guys without minor league options, you either put them in the major league bullpen or they go to free agency. And so, like, if one of these guys has an option and the other doesn't, that, like, let's say Cody Bolton doesn't have an option, but Danner does, immediately Bolton has the upper hand. And so I think that because of that, it'll be very interesting to see. The pile is probably not done being added to, mind you. Like, the 26-man roster that we're seeing right here could greatly change depending on who the Mariners add to the pile later on this, like during spring training or what have you. Or let's say Hunter Cranton comes up and shows out in like games during the spring training circuit or what have you. Like, yeah, then maybe he makes a team. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like the bullpen's the hardest spot to understand, kind of who's going to be where. And again, injuries are a thing. Like Gregory Santos is listed in both guys' bullpen, but like he hasn't been healthy ever in his career. So that's another tough one as well.
It was Junior Marte that ended up signing in the NPB. Okay. So
right.
Medina and Valdez, both options in the pile. I will say, out of the guys that I've checked in the pile, Danner, Fujinami, Will Klein, Legumina, like Bolton, all still have options.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So like Fujinami's got 2, Danner's got 1, Bolton has 1, Klein has 2, Legumina has 1. So like there's a lot of different choices and routes that the Mariners can go with for their 26-man as far as the bullpen's concerned to start the year. But I mean, some of the guys that you mentioned, like that aren't there, that we'll figure to be there, like Brash, end of April is his timeline. Troy Taylor, we're not really certain on because like it was a lat strain in his preseason like workout. So like we'll find out more as time goes on. But like if he was healthy, he would be in there above, I think. I mean, do you think he'd be in there above Bolton and Danner more than likely? Or would he be in front of like Saucedo?
For who? Sorry? For Taylor?
Troy Taylor.
I would say he'd be above all those guys.
Yeah, right. So like then it becomes a competition between like one of the other lefties, depending on who looks better out of camp, Saucedo or Spire, and then some of the guys also in the pile as it kind of goes forward. Yeah, the bullpen battles are always interesting in spring. Like some guys can come out and surprise you. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say that like I think Neftali Feliz has a chance, but like who knows? He could be pumping 98 and we'll be like, oh my God. Get him into the 7th inning immediately, right? Like we have no idea. And it's all comes down to like what we see out of them in spring, which is like one of the more exciting times outside of when we see, what was his name last year? He like every single time he came into the game, it was bad. Someone in the comments has to know. I don't know if he's still with the team.
Every time he came into the game, it was bad.
Dog, I swear to God, he gave up the lead every single time he came into the game.
I'm sure someone in the comments will have an idea of who you're talking about.
I know it every other day of the week besides right now.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's super, Joe.
That's
while you're figuring that out, let's talk about the infielders here. So Divish has J.P. Crawford, Luke Raley, Jorge Polanco, Donovan Solano, Dylan Moore, Leo Rivas, and Miles Masterboni as the infielders for the Mariners. There, again, is one difference between Ty's list and Divish's list, and that difference is Ryan Bliss and Miles Masterboni. Now, in this regard, I think that I lean towards Divish's list. I'm not again, no slight on Ty here. I think Bliss probably deserves the spot. I think if the Mariners were to go about making this infield, they would go with Masterboni because he's very versatile. He could play every infield's position.
Mhm.
He's a left-handed bat. He's out of options, I think.
Yeah.
And they want Ryan Bliss to get everyday at bats down in AAA at second base. And like have Cole Young play short, Ryan Bliss at second, and possibly Tyler Locklear at first base. Tyler Locklear is not on either of these guys' list.
Yeah.
And then have Jorge Polanco, or I'm sorry, not Jorge Polanco, Ben Williamson over at third base. Yeah, that's a sick infield down in AAA Tacoma. That's awesome.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I think that while I think that Bliss is a guy who deserves the opportunity to play more, I don't think he's going to get it in the majors until he proves he's ready. And I don't know how much more there is for him to prove down in AAA Tacoma, but I think they would rather him get everyday at bats than have him play once a week, maybe.
Yeah.
And because of that, I would expect that Miles Mastroboni does get the spot above him, though I don't think that he is as deserving. I think that just, again, being a left-handed bat, being out of options, and being a guy who the Mariners really don't care if he only gets like one at-bat a week,
Mhm.
a handful of at-bats a week. Whereas Bliss, they still think they might have something there. They want to make sure he stays on schedule.
And looking at like Fangraph's roster resources, well, just like kind of like the depth chart that they kind of have, they've still got Austin Shenton and Dom Canzone on this like 26-man roster theoretically. I mean, that's also including like they've got Carlos Vargas in the bullpen. It's three guys that Divish and Ty both have left off their respective lists. And looking at what they provide as far as like Leo Rivas, Ryan Bliss, Miles Mastroboni, Dom Canzone, like I think what you said does make sense. Getting Leo Rivas, getting Miles Mastroboni every day at bats down in Tacoma, it's probably not the most lucrative. What is seeing what Ryan Bliss can really give you every single day, what Dom Canzone can really give you every single day, what Austin Shenton might be able to give you every single day. Sure, in the PCL, a much different league than what the Mariners are playing in the American League West and the broader MLB. It's much different. But you're not really worried about what the potential, the ceiling is for Mastroboni and Leo Rivas. You are concerned, or not maybe not concerned, but like you're intrigued by what Ryan Bliss can do, what Austin Shenton can do, what Dom Canzone can do. They've shown flashes of it. Mastroboni and Rivas, they're more of that quad A, like very on the fringe, could go down at any moment guy that if someone is down in Tacoma hitting the cover off the ball, playing out of their minds, looking like they deserve the spot on the 26-man roster, they can go and then that guy can come up. And that's, I think, precisely where both of their logic is going with Divish providing Mastroboni. That sounded weird. And Ryan
Whoa!
and Ryan Bliss on Ty's list. But to answer your question about Mastroboni, he's got one option left. So that's something to consider as well. I don't think either list or 26-man roster, like you said, is wrong.
Right.
There's a lot of guys that kind of fit into that 24th, 25th, 26th man on this roster. But the usual suspects are there. Julio, Randy, Victor, Mitch Haniger. Catching, Cal Raleigh, Mitch Garver. Whoa, Haniger behind the dish. That'd be interesting. No, it wouldn't. Interesting that they don't include like Blake Hunt as like a third catcher. Like we saw Sebi be rostered for a while. Is that just like due to like where he was at in his MLB career? Obviously doesn't have options, whereas Blake Hunt, you can roster him down in Tacoma should you need him to come up later. Same thing with Harry Ford. Like, yeah, I think that there's logical reasons behind every single decision that both those guys made in their respective articles. And I think it's a good insight to where the team's probably at as far as like evaluating where they're at, being ready for opening day and like wanting to get guys more in the groove that could provide more bang for their buck later down in the season. That if you need a spark plug by June, if you get into the June gloom, dog days of summer, and Leo Rivas is now just not rosterable. Miles Mastroboni, not rosterable. You can call one of them up.
As for the two different articles, Joe, yeah, both of them have the outfield and, the DH, kind of the same. So whatever, I think that it'll be interesting to see if Mitch Haniger gets DFA'd or not. I think that there could be room for the Mariners to bring somebody up in his place. Should he get DFA'd, you mentioned Blake Hunt. Maybe they do run with three catchers. If Mitch Garver is going to play more of a role at DH, then maybe they do run with Blake Hunt as the backup catcher. But there's still a lot of moving parts with where this offseason is going and where spring training rosters are going to be. And I think that there is a chance that some of the prospects have a chance at making the 26-man roster going into 2025. And I made a video about that. It's on the screen now. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 164 of the Hit It Here podcast, and go Mariners.